Why he'll test you after no contact, Carl Jung. There is a moment that arrives in every connection, whether it's a breakup, a slow fade, or a painful silence, where the roles shift without either person consciously intending it. When you pull back, when you stop reaching out, when you stop giving unlimited emotional access, something fundamental changes in the dynamic. And even though it's quiet, even though it's subtle, even though no one announces it out loud, that shift echoes loudly in the background. Because in that silence, something powerful happens. The person who once felt certain about you suddenly begins to feel uncertain, and uncertainty is the birthplace of discomfort. When a guy reaches out after a period of no contact, it's rarely random, it's rarely coincidence, it's rarely because he woke up transformed into the man you always hoped he could be. Most of the time, it's a reaction, a response to the sudden vacuum created when your energy disappears. When you stop being available, when you stop making things easy, when you stop offering reassurance without him earning it, his unconscious mind starts to feel the shift. And without even realizing it, he begins to crave back the control he once had. It's not always about love. Many times it's about ego. It's about power. It's about testing the waters to see if he still has influence over your emotions. A man doesn't need to say, "I want her back," to test you. All he needs to do is send a breadcrumb. Because breadcrumbs cost nothing. A small message like, "Hey, how are you?" Or, "I saw something that reminded me of you," isn't effort. It isn't a change. It isn't growth. It's a signal, a probe, a test. And what he is really trying to find out is not, "Do I want her?" but "Does she still want me?" That's a very different motivation. Human beings are wired with what Carl Jung described in his work on the unconscious. The psychological force that drives behavior beneath awareness. Much of what we do emotionally isn't intentional, it's instinctive. When he reaches out, he's not always consciously thinking, "Let me see if she still cares." But deep in the unconscious mind, where insecurity, ego, and attachment sit quietly waiting, there is a pull. A pull to confirm he hasn't lost access. A pull to soothe the discomfort that silence creates. A pull to protect his persona. The identity he presents to the world is one where he always feels desired, chosen, and wanted. The moment he realizes that you are no longer orbiting around him, that your world is no longer revolving in his gravitational field, his persona trembles. And when it does, he reaches for the easiest source of relief, you. Not because he is ready to step into something real, but because he wants to know the door is still open. He wants to know he still has a key. He wants to know he can walk in anytime he needs comfort or validation. That's what emotional access is, and that's what he's testing. But here is where everything changes. The power is not in the message he sends. The power is in how you respond. If you answer immediately, if you show excitement, if you open the emotional floodgates the moment he knocks, you confirm what he came looking for. That you are still there, still waiting, still emotionally anchored to him. He gets the reassurance he came for. And with that reassurance, the urgency disappears. And once that urgency disappears, he can disappear too. Because he didn't reach out to rebuild something, he reached out to confirm something. That's why so many people experience the painful cycle where someone resurfaces, only to vanish again. It's not confusion. It's not an accident. It's completion of a test. But when you don't respond immediately, when you respond with grounded neutrality, when you give silence instead of emotional availability, you create a shift in the power dynamic that he has never had to feel before. Suddenly, he is confronted with the shadow, the parts of himself he avoids, the insecurity he tried to hide beneath confidence, the fear of losing something he assumed he would always have. This is where the process of individuation, another powerful Jungian concept, begins internally for him. The beginning of confronting who he is without you, who he was when he had you, and who he must become if he wants you again. Silence forces reflection in a way that words never can. Your silence becomes the mirror that shows him everything he didn't want to. Notice when your presence was constant. Silence asks questions he cannot ignore. Why isn't she responding right away? Has she moved on? Was she more valuable to me than I realized? Did I misjudge her willingness to wait for me? Am I losing her for real? And the most powerful question, do I have to step up now? Not everyone is ready to face that question. Some men back away because they never intended to show up differently. They wanted access, not commitment. Control, not connection. Validation, not vulnerability. They missed the feeling of being wanted, not the reality of having to earn it. And that's the difference between someone who tests you and someone who chooses you. A man who truly wants to come back doesn't send a lazy, hey. He doesn't breadcrumb. He doesn't test to see if you'll break first. He steps forward with clarity, accountability, and effort. He speaks directly instead of indirectly. He leads instead of hinting. He acts instead of provoking you to act. So hear this clearly. When someone reaches out after silence, don't see it as a romantic gesture. See it as information. Information about their intention, about their emotional maturity, about what role they want you to play in their life. Because the test is not whether he messages you. The test is whether he shows up with substance, and your power is not in how you react emotionally. Your power is in how you choose to respond strategically. Silence is not a weapon. Silence is a boundary. Silence is where you reclaim control. And when you hold that silence, when you stay grounded, when you refuse to trade your peace for momentary validation, you force the truth to reveal itself. Who he really is, what he really wants, and whether he is capable of becoming the man who deserves access to you again. The silence you hold becomes a conversation all by itself. And ironically, it's a conversation far louder than anything you could say. Because silence removes illusion. Words can soften truth, excuse behavior, and disguise patterns. But silence exposes everything. Silence is clarity. And when he reaches out after no contact, that message is not the real point of information. Your response is. Your response shows him whether the dynamic is the same or whether the game has changed. It tells him whether he still has easy access, or whether access now comes with standards, boundaries, and self-respect. And that realization can be jarring, especially for someone who once felt secure in the idea that you would always be there. Before silence, he may have felt comfortable. Before silence, he may have felt he could take his time. Before silence, he may have believed that your heart would wait indefinitely. But when the silence stretches and you no longer reach out, no longer check in, no longer give unlimited emotional availability, he feels a shift in the atmosphere. Something that once felt certain is now unknown. And the unknown is uncomfortable, even frightening, because it forces him to confront the possibility that he is not as important as he thought he was. That's when people start reaching for the illusion of control, not control over you, control over their emotional comfort. They don't want to face the consequences of distance. They don't want to sit with the discomfort of losing access. They don't want to feel the vulnerability of realizing that someone else might step into the place they once held. Instead of doing the work to understand their feelings, they send a message hoping you'll relieve the pressure for them. It's not that they're trying to hurt you. They're trying to soothe themselves. That's why the first message after silence is rarely deep. It's rarely accountable. It's rarely vulnerable. It's rarely something like, I've reflected on everything and I realize what I lost. Instead, it's something light, casual, and effortless. Hey, how have you been? Because what they want is reassurance without risk. Effortless outreach is the safest kind. It costs nothing emotionally. If you ignore it, they can pretend they never cared. If you respond, they get the validation without having to earn it. That's why that first message matters less than how you answer. Because your silence or your restraint communicates something new. The emotional economy has changed. What used to be free now requires effort. And effort reveals intention. When someone knows they can regain your attention with minimal effort, they never have a reason to give more. Why would they? Human nature seeks the path of least resistance. It always has. Why climb a mountain when the door is already open? Why work for something that is already guaranteed? But when the door is closed, when the path is steep, when access requires growth, that's when you see someone's true capacity. That's when you discover whether their interest runs deeper than curiosity or convenience. Because here's the truth no one wants to say out loud. There is a difference between missing you and missing the ability to reach you whenever they want. One is emotional, the other is ego. They feel the same, but they show themselves differently over time. Someone who misses you, the real you, shows effort. They reflect, they step up. They ask for conversations that matter. They take accountability. They don't breadcrumb. They don't send lazy, half-hearted messages because they know real connection requires real presence. They don't need to test you. They choose you. But someone who only misses access doesn't show up with vulnerability. They don't risk rejection. They don't rebuild. They just want to know they still matter. They want to know the door is still unlocked, even if they have no intention of walking through it. That's why your response matters so deeply. When you pause, when you choose silence over emotional impulsivity, you're not being cold. You are protecting everything you had to rebuild inside yourself when he was gone. You are honoring the healing you fought for. You are refusing to hand your heart back to the same uncertainty it took months to escape. You're saying without saying, my peace is more important than your curiosity. My growth is more important than your ego. My heart is not something you get to borrow whenever you feel lonely. If you want access, you're going to have to show up differently this time. And that's where the power lies. Not in making him chase, not in manipulation, not in games, but in the quiet truth that you are no longer the version of yourself who accepted the bare minimum. Once someone senses that you're no longer emotionally available on demand, everything shifts. Suddenly, he has to consider the possibility that someone else is appreciating what he neglected. Suddenly, he has to face the fact that you may have outgrown the version of him that once had so much influence over your heart. Suddenly, he has to acknowledge the possibility that you're not waiting anymore. You're choosing. And that realization can be terrifying. Because when something that once felt guaranteed becomes uncertain, human nature reacts. Sometimes it reacts through genuine effort, sometimes through panic, sometimes through inconsistency, sometimes through testing. That's why the first reach out isn't the sign you should pay attention to. It's what follows that matters. Does he step closer with clarity, or does he retreat once he gets validation? Does he offer depth, or does he stay superficial? Does he ask to talk, or does he hide behind small talk? Does he show change, or does he repeat the same pattern with different timing? People don't reveal their truth with their first message. They reveal their truth with what they do after the first message. Your silence gives you space to observe instead of emotionally react. It gives him space to reveal instead of perform. It gives truth room to surface instead of staying buried beneath wishful thinking. And the most powerful thing you can do is stand still long enough to see someone clearly, because silence isn't about punishment. It's about perspective. It's about choosing yourself. It's about letting actions speak louder than storytelling. It's about honoring the version of you who finally learned the difference between being wanted and being valued. And if he truly values you, he won't be scared away by silence. He will rise to meet you. There comes a moment when the silence stops being about him and begins being about you. At first, silence feels like a reaction. a response to pain, confusion, or disappointment. But over time, it becomes a choice, a declaration, a quiet revolution inside your spirit that says, I matter too. And that shift doesn't just change the dynamic between you and him, it changes you. It reshapes the way you see yourself, the way you understand your worth, and the way you allow others to treat you. Because when the emotions first break, when the separation first happens, it's easy to feel like your world is collapsing. Your instinct is to reach out, to fix, to explain, to understand, to try again. The silence at the beginning is heavy, uncomfortable, and unfamiliar. You feel the urge to break it, to fill the space, to pull the connection back into your hands. That's human. That's attachment. That's the heart trying to protect what it knows. But the longer you hold that silence, the more you begin to realize something powerful. You survived. You're breathing. You're standing. You're figuring out life without constantly managing someone else's emotions. You begin to remember what it feels like to be whole without depending on someone's attention to feel valued. The silence becomes your anchor, your healing, your foundation. And while you're healing, he's watching that silence grow louder. At first, he assumes it won't last. He tells himself you'll reach out. You always did. He assumes you'll fold because you always did. He assumes you'll break first because you always did. And he waits, confident, comfortable, certain. But then something he didn't expect happens. You don't break. You don't return. You don't chase. And that's when the panic sets in. Because when someone is used to your consistency, your absence feels like abandonment. When someone is used to your softness, your silence feels like rejection. And when someone is used to having access to your heart without earning it, your boundaries feel like punishment. What he doesn't realize is that your silence isn't an attack, it's a recovery. Silence is where you rebuild the parts of yourself you gave away trying to hold things together. Silence is where you realize that a relationship is supposed to be effort from both sides, not just yours. Silence is where the fog clears, and you stop confusing attachment with love, history with compatibility, and potential with reality. And that clarity changes everything. Suddenly, the power dynamic flips. The version of you who tolerated inconsistency is gone. The version of you who mistook breadcrumbs for devotion is gone. The version of you who felt lucky to be chosen is gone. In her place stands someone who realizes she is the chooser, someone who understands that love is not proven through sacrifice, but through alignment. Someone who no longer gives unconditional access to someone who offered conditional presence. And he feels that shift deeply. He feels it in the way your responses are slower, shorter, and more grounded. He feels it in the way your tone changes. No emotional urgency, no intensity, no longing between the lines. He feels it in the way you're no longer trying to persuade or convince. He feels it when he sends a message expecting warmth and instead receives calm neutrality. That neutrality is terrifying because it signals something irreversible. He no longer holds emotional power over you. You're not angry. You're not chasing. You're not begging. You're detached. And detachment is the scariest energy in the world because it means he cannot control the outcome anymore. Once the emotional power shifts, the dynamic transforms. What you used to fear losing him is now replaced by a new fear on his side, losing you. What used to be his certainty becomes his insecurity. What used to be your worry becomes his question. Is she gone? Is she over me? Did I lose her for real? That's when he reaches back. That's when he tests the waters. That's when curiosity turns into anxiety. That's when ego turns into fear. That's when silence becomes unbearable. But here's the truth most people never understand until they're living it. The real test isn't whether he reaches out. The real test is what he does after he realizes you won't respond the way you used to. If he disappears again once he gets a response, he won't be coming back. He was checking in. If he gets defensive or irritated by your boundaries, he wasn't trying to reconnect. He was trying to regain control. If he tries to pull you back without offering anything different, he wasn't missing you. He was missing validation. But if he steps up, truly steps up, you will know, not because he says the right words, but because he shows the right actions. Suddenly, he doesn't send vague messages. He sends clear intentions. Suddenly, he doesn't hide behind jokes. He opens up with honesty. Suddenly, he doesn't breadcrumb. He pursues slowly, consistently, and intentionally. Men don't change for someone who waits for them. They change for someone they're afraid to lose. That fear only exists when you stop giving unlimited emotional access. It exists when you stop being the fallback plan. It exists when you stop being the emotional safety net. It exists when you choose yourself. Because your silence forces him into a crossroads he can no longer avoid. Will he step up and become the man you need? Or will he retreat because he never planned to? Either way, silence reveals the truth. And sometimes the truth you find in silence is not about him. It's about you. You realize you didn't lose him. You released him. You stopped trying to make someone stay who wasn't choosing to. You stopped holding the door open for someone who let it slam behind them. You stopped confusing emotional intensity with emotional safety. You stopped giving someone the power to define your worth. You stopped needing him and started needing yourself. And when you become whole, when you become grounded, when you become someone who isn't afraid to walk away, you change the way you love. You love from strength, not fear. You love with boundaries, not desperation. You love with clarity, not with chaos. And suddenly the silence isn't uncomfortable anymore. It's peaceful. It's not emptiness. It's space. It's not waiting. It's choosing. It's not loss. It's alignment. And the irony is this. It's often in the moment he realizes he can't reach you the way he used to, that he finally sees who you truly were all along. What's unfolding now isn't just a shift between you and him. It's a transformation inside you that changes everything about the way you move through relationships. Because once you've experienced yourself outside of the emotional loop you were trapped in, you start to see clearly what you could never see while you were consumed by caring too much. You realize how much peace you gain when you stop trying to control outcomes that were never yours to control. You realize how much strength you have when you stop handing your emotional power to someone who doesn't know what to do with it. You realize that the version of you who stayed, who waited, who tried, wasn't weak. She was hopeful, but the version of you who learned to let go is powerful, and that power changes the way you respond when he reaches back out. It changes the way you interpret his attempts to reconnect. Before, you might have seen that first message as a sign, as hope, or as relief. It might have resurrected every emotion you tried to bury. It might have lit up the parts of you still craving closure or wanting answers. But now that message doesn't shake you. It doesn't destabilize you. It doesn't pull you back into old patterns. Instead, it makes you pause. It makes you reflect. It makes you observe. You don't rush to reply because the urgency is gone. You don't attach meaning to every word because you're grounded. You don't assume anything has changed simply because he decided to speak. You allow silence to work for you instead of against you. Because you now understand something that once felt impossible to believe. You don't need him to choose you for you to feel valuable. You don't need his attention to feel significant. You don't need his presence to feel whole. And that shift in you is what he feels most intensely. He may not know how to articulate it. He may not consciously understand what changed. But he can feel that you're not emotionally where he left you. He can feel that he doesn't have access to your heart the way he once did. He can feel that something that used to be predictable is now unfamiliar. That unfamiliarity is what makes him lean in deeper, not because he planned to, but because human nature is drawn to what it cannot easily secure. When something is guaranteed, it loses meaning. When something is uncertain, it becomes valuable. When something requires effort, it becomes desirable. Scarcity creates urgency, and your emotional distance becomes a mirror he can't look away from. Suddenly, he finds himself replaying memories he once dismissed. He hears your laugh in quiet moments. He remembers the way you listened when no one else did. He thinks about the way your presence made him feel understood in a world where he always felt misunderstood. He realizes the level of effort, patience, loyalty, and emotional warmth you gave. Not because you were desperate, but because love is your nature. He begins to see what he refused to appreciate, that not everyone loves deeply. Not everyone gives without keeping score. Not everyone stays when things get uncomfortable. And if he lost someone rare, that's a reality he has to sit with, in silence, alone, without reassurance. And he may try to combat that discomfort with distractions. Other people, surface-level attention, busyness, ego. But those things don't fill the void created by the absence of something real. They're noise, temporary relief, bandages on wounds that require soul work. Eventually, the noise quiets. Eventually, the distractions stop distracting. Eventually, the space where you once lived feels painfully empty. That's when he reaches the crossroads. Not the crossroads of decision, but the crossroads of character. Because now he has to choose between two paths. The path of comfort, where he walks away again, pretending it never mattered, hoping time erases the truth, or the path of courage, where he faces everything he ran from, admits what he feels, and chooses vulnerability over ego. That's why silence is so powerful. It forces truth to reveal itself. If he were only testing you for control, your silence ends the test. He disappears again, proving he never intended to stay. If he genuinely values you, your silence challenges him to step up, not step away. Your silence becomes the filter that separates the temporary from the permanent. The curious are from the committed, the immature from the grown-up. And if he truly wants something real, you will see it in what he does next. He will not rely on ambiguity. He will not breadcrumb. He will not poke at your emotions like a toy he remembers is still in the room. He will move with clarity, because clarity is the language of someone who understands the cost of losing a good person. That's the moment where time and silence finish their work. Because silence didn't just change him, it changed you. You stopped measuring your worth by someone else's ability to choose you. You stopped believing that love must be proven by enduring pain. You stopped thinking that losing someone means you failed. You stopped confusing being needed with being valued. You became someone who knows your own worth without needing external confirmation. Someone who knows that the right person doesn't test your place in their life. They protect it. Someone who knows that love doesn't require begging, or chasing, or sacrificing yourself in the process. Someone who knows that silence isn't emptiness, it's proof of self-respect. And once you reach that place, everything changes. Not just how you see him, but how you see love. You realize that the right love doesn't make you anxious, it makes you peaceful. The right love doesn't confuse you, it clarifies you. The right love doesn't shrink you, it expands you. The right love doesn't drain you, it nourishes you, and you no longer fear losing. Someone who isn't willing to put in the effort to keep you, because you now understand that losing someone like you is the real loss, not the other way around. So if he reaches out, if he knocks on the door he once walked away from, the question is no longer, does he still want me? The real question becomes, does he deserve another version of me? And that question is powerful, because for the first time, the answer belongs to you, not him. There comes a point in every journey of healing where the silence turns into understanding, where the space that once felt empty becomes sacred, where the absence that once ached becomes the very thing that sets you free. Because silence isn't just the lack of words, it's the presence of truth. And sitting in that truth, even when it hurts, transforms you. When he reaches out after all that time, after all that quiet, after all that distance, something inside you has already changed. You're no longer looking for answers from him. You found them inside yourself. You're no longer waiting for him to choose you. You've already chosen yourself. You're no longer hoping he'll return with clarity. You've gained clarity on your own. You're not the same woman he left behind. Before, his message might have sent your heart racing, sent your mind spiraling, sent your hopes sprinting down a road that always led you back to disappointment. But now, it doesn't shake you. You read it, you breathe, you feel it, but you don't collapse beneath it. You don't abandon yourself to chase the possibility of him. You don't let your imagination outrun reality. You stay grounded because now you understand something essential. Love isn't proven by who returns. Love is proven by who remains, who shows up, who grows, who chooses you again and again without needing to lose you first. And that's why his return doesn't define your value anymore. It reveals his. He's not coming back to save you. You already saved yourself. He's not coming back to complete you. You completed yourself. He's not coming back to make you whole. You built wholeness from the pieces he left scattered. The silence gave you the chance to see the difference between attachment and compatibility. It gave you the space to detach your worth from his attention. It taught you that your heart is not a place someone gets to enter and exit freely. It taught you that closure is something you create, not something you wait to receive. And now when he resurfaces, the question isn't, what does this mean? The real question is, what does this show? Does it show growth, accountability, intention, and respect? Or does it show fear, insecurity, curiosity, and the need for validation? Because anyone can say they miss you. Not everyone can say, I'm sorry, I understand, I'm ready to do the work. Anyone can send a message. Not everyone can take accountability. Anyone can test the waters. Not everyone can jump in with both feet. Anyone can want access. Not everyone can offer commitment. You've learned to read the difference. Commitment. So, when his message arrives, you don't rush to respond. You don't spill your heart into a conversation that has not proven it deserves depth. You don't hand your emotion to someone who hasn't shown they can protect it. You don't soften the silence just because he's uncomfortable inside it. You let him feel what you felt. Uncertainty. You let him sit in what you sat in, the not knowing, because now you understand that silence is not cruelty. Silence is balance. Silence is where you finally stop overgiving and let the universe speak. Silence is what reveals whether someone was connected to you emotionally or merely addicted to your energy. If his message was a test, silence gives him his answer. You moved on. You are not waiting. You are not accessible without effort. If his message were genuine, silence challenges him to prove it, to try harder, to speak clearly, and to step into vulnerability instead of observing from safety. The beauty of this moment is that you're no longer afraid of what happens next. You're not afraid of losing him because you found yourself. You're not afraid of the unknown because you've already survived uncertainty. You're not afraid of being alone because solitude no longer feels like punishment. It feels like peace. And when you're not afraid, nothing controls you. That is why silence becomes your strength. Not because it punishes him, but because it protects you. He may say he misses you, but does he act like it? He may say he wants to talk, but does he make space for real conversations? He may say he cares, but does he show up consistently? Words are cheap. Effort is expensive. Consistency is priceless, and now your heart only accepts what is priceless. So if he comes back differently, if he comes back with clarity, with accountability, with humility, with respect, with consistency, then and only then does the door open a small amount, not because you need him, but because you choose to see if something real can exist. If he knocks with the same energy he left with, silence remains your answer. The door stays closed, because now you understand that sometimes letting go isn't losing something. Sometimes it's saving yourself from staying somewhere you outgrew. You learn the difference between someone who wants you temporarily and someone who wants to build with you permanently. You learn the difference between someone who comes back because they're lonely and someone who comes back because they're ready. You learn the difference between attention and intention. And perhaps the most powerful realization is this: you don't need someone to return for your story to be complete. You don't need someone to apologize for you to heal. You don't need someone to validate your pain for it to be real. You don't need someone to choose you for you to be worthy. You were always enough. You just needed silence to remember. So when he reaches out after all this time, don't let it shake you. Let it inform you. Let it clarify. Let it reveal his character, not resurrect your old wounds. Let silence continue to speak until his actions speak louder. And if it turns out that he wasn't meant to stay, that's not tragedy. That's protection. Because the right person won't wait until they've lost you to appreciate you. The right person won't test you. They'll treasure you. The right person won't come back confused. They'll come back certain. And the right person won't be intimidated by your silence. They'll be inspired by your strength. Sometimes the greatest love story isn't the one where he comes back. Sometimes the greatest love story is the one where you finally don't.